Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Con Magician, and I've got something interesting to share with you. I've got a deck of cards here, and you would have the spectator shuffle the deck of cards just to make sure that this is fair starting out. Nothing is set up, nothing is prearranged. The cards are normal. They can be, of course, inspected. They could be borrowed. We do want to make sure we have all of the cards for what we're going to do, because it's going to be a series of experiments, and we don't want to catch ourselves out not having everything that we need. You could do this with one person, but this would be way better if you had several people. You'll see why here in a minute. So cards are shuffled, and we're just going to take a look at these. And what I want you to do is I want you to name any card that comes to mind, any one at all that comes to mind. Let's say that you name the Queen of Spades, right? Queen of Spades comes to mind. So we'll go through here and we'll find, where's our Queen of Spades? Here's our Queen of Spades. We'll just take this out. Now, what we want to do is I want you to pick another one. Think of a different one, but make sure that it's a completely different value and a completely different color. Different value, different colors. So let's see if we can find one here. We've got the nine of hearts. Nine of hearts. So we'll go through here, see if we can find. Here's the nine of hearts. Nine of hearts right there. And that's good. That's exactly what we need. What we're going to do now is very straightforward. What I want you to do is I just want you to cut approximately half of the deck. Cut about half the cards, like that. And what we're going to do is we're just going to set these two selections, these things that you thought of. Again, you freely thought of these. We took them out of the deck that you shuffled. Nothing's set up. I'm going to set these aside over here, and we're going to take your random selection from the cut, and we're going to place it over there. So you can kind of see this premise we're setting up. We're selecting out two, picking two cards, and then kind of a secret selection. Now we're going to speed this up a little bit more. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick some cards and set them aside, and then you'll make a selection. We'll just try to do this quickly and efficiently. We'll do this a few times. We'll do it a few times to see what kinds of outcomes we get. So I'm going to pick here, maybe, let's see here, the six of diamonds and five of spades. Six of diamonds and five of spades. And now what I need you to do is I need you to actually, why don't you just cut about half the deck again, and why don't you turn it over completely, and we'll just set it back down there. It's not this card we're interested in at the cut. We're actually interested in the other side of your cut. Again, the secret card, the one that you cut to. We'll set that aside. So we have another one, and then we have let's do another one of these. Again, I'm going to make I'll make a selection. So I'm going to go with the Ace of Clubs. And one right next to it. We'll do the Six of Hearts. So Ace of Clubs, Six of Hearts. And we're going to do this again. What I want you to do is, why don't you do this time? Why don't you cut, we'll get a couple people to do, maybe a couple of different people. Why don't you cut just a small packet and turn it over like that. Set it on the deck. And why don't you, and we're not interested in this card. Okay, we're not interested in that one. But why don't you cut about half the deck and turn that over. Set it down, okay? And again, we're not interested in this card either. We're interested in the unknown card that you two have cut together. So between your cuts, we find here a card that's unknown. We'll set that right there. So neither one of you had control over the situation. Together, you kind of came up with this, and you don't know what it is. Nobody knows what it is, okay? Let's do this a little differently this time. Instead, this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a card. I'm going to pick out, let's see here. I don't know. The last few times, I got an idea. Let's do this backwards. The last two times, I picked out a couple of known cards, and then you picked one unknown card. I'm going to pick an unknown card, okay? And what I'll have you do is same thing. What we're going to do is you're going to kind of switch roles with me. You're going to pick a couple of cards here, and we'll just do this very simply. Just tell me when to stop. Say stop anytime. Stop right here. You want me to go one more? Okay, all right. Right here. So we've got these two cards. Okay, so this is your selection. We've got this situation. Okay, now it doesn't mean anything to you, right? It's completely unaware of where we're going with this, but I just want to make you understand that you shuffled the deck, right? You shuffled the deck. Everything was out of order. Nothing has been set up. Multiple people were involved here, right? So it's not like any two of us, myself and one other person, could be in on this, right? If I had one person making a bunch of selections, you could assume some things about what you're about to see here. But everybody was in on this, right? We haven't worked this out in ahead of time, right? So it's a pretty secure kind of situation. What has happened here is you set up a bit of a premise, okay, on the first one. What you did was you thought of two cards, 1, 2, and these two cards represent something. You have the Queen of Spades represents a value. And then you have the 9 of Hearts represents a suit. So the new card is the Queen of Hearts. Then you cut the deck and you cut to an unknown card. You did this yourself from a deck that you shuffled. Okay, you have to remember that. And amazingly enough, you cut to the Queen of Hearts. Now, I picked a couple of cards here. I picked the 5 of Spades and the 6 of Diamonds, right? And if you look at this, the same kind of thing is going on here. We have the 6 for the value and the spade for the suit. And once again, you cut to an unknown card that nobody knows. Nobody knew what it was at the time. Nobody knows what it is now. You didn't know what you were selecting. But it is indeed the 6 of Spades. We made this even more fantastic, right? Because again, I took out a couple of predictions here, what I thought might happen, and I have the Ace of Clubs and the 6 of Hearts. This time, 2 of you made some cuts to the deck, and together, the composite of your movement came up with, hopefully, the Ace of Hearts. Ace of Hearts. The last one seems even more impossible because we reversed the roles. And you had a free choice, right? Completely free agency to stop anytime you wanted. I chose a card, an unknown card, right? And then you stopped right here in this situation. You have the 2 of Clubs and the Queen of Diamonds. You picked these randomly. Remember, and you shuffled this deck at the start. There was nothing prepared about it. 2 of Diamonds. How about that? Okay, so this is a compilation of ideas that we've talked about. Some of them we've talked about many times. Some of them we've been talking about recently. And all of this fits into that free agency of choice kind of topic that we'd been talking about several weeks back. Card magic with a shuffled deck in use, no preparation on it, and doing free agency of choice, thought of cards, named cards, free agency and selection, cut locations, things that look like stop forces, but they're not really stop forces, right? Or timing kind of force situation. But free agency with a shuffled deck, verifiably shuffled deck, something that could not have been prepared. And we're getting there by putting together several ideas that have similarity. They kind of work together, okay? So the first example of this from the shuffled deck is this is one part of a trick that I talked about a while back, I think earlier in the summer. I called it 2 for the show. There's 2 sides to this where you're going to reveal a value and suit, and then you do the opposite, right, in the second part. We're only taking the first part of this. So truly, the deck is shuffled, and they name any card that comes to mind. Let's say they name the 3 of Spades, and then you say pick another one that is a different value and a different color, and let's say they pick something like the 2 of Hearts. As they do this, I'm already thinking about where the red 3s are at. So I see red 3 here and the red 3 here, 3 of Diamonds, 3 of Hearts. As soon as they name what this is, I know I'm going for that card. Okay. And what I do is I just pick up, I push off that 3, and then I pick up all the cards above it and I set them on the bottom. So it's a spread shift, table spread shift. I then set the cards down, and then I crisscross force my 3 of hearts. That's how this all starts. Now, the neat thing about this is that they've made all the selections. They chose these by thinking of them, and they chose these in action. So this is free agency all the way around. Now, what I do for the timing misdirection is I do the cut, and then I come over here and I point out to these. I say, now you thought of these cards, right? And then this card is one that you randomly selected. So just that moment where I point to the other 2 cards and recap gives me the timing misdirect that I can have to kind of muddle up the picture over here. And then I put the one that these 2 cards you thought of, this one you freely chose, right? And then we go on to the next phase. The next phase is the Lynn Cyril's version of the cut deeper force, which is not really a cut deeper force. There's only one cut. It's a cut force. This is going to be done after I pick some cards. So what I'm going to do here, though, is a bit of a throw-off, maybe for some magicians here, although you would recognize the move itself. Normally, when you do these kinds of things, you're looking at bottom or top cards, and you would secretly pick the cards out of it. I like the idea of spreading, and they can see this disorder, right? And what I'm looking at is the 4th card, Queen of Spades. Now, you will find some situations as you get further into this where cards are taken up. And you'll have to kind of navigate an alternative. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But I'm actually going to force the Queen of Spades. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a queen, any kind of queen, probably a red queen. And then I'm going to pick a spade, any spade. So I'll pick maybe the Ace of Spades. So I have Queen of Spades is now forced, but that's not on the peripheral areas. It's not out here where it would be noticed by anybody that might be thinking ahead on this, right? All I need to do is run 3 cards, and then I have access to my Queen of Spades. It's buried enough in there that it's not accessible, right, to the mind or to the memory. No one's going to remember anyway what they're looking at. People don't remember even the face card because it's just not important information. So then I'm going to run off 3 cards. You could do an optical shuffle on top of that, just false run a few and then throw at the bottom. But now we're going to do the Lynn Cyril's cut force. So I have them cut about half the deck and turn it over and lay it down. And then I say, look, I'm not interested in the card that you revealed here. I'm actually interested in the one that we don't see at the cut. In that motion, I pick up the deck and I turn it over and spread it. And then I reach over and immediately take out the first face down card, right? This is not really understood as being anything. Technically, this should be the card that we revealed before, but that's out of mind. We're not interested in that card. I turn it over, I spread, immediately take this card out and lay it on top, and then I collect everything and put it back in order. Now, I think one subtlety in doing this is to take this pile over here and turn it over on top of the other pile. It just psychologically further reinforces that the card came out of the middle of the deck. Okay, but I have indeed forced Queen of Spades back out, right? The next one is going to be the same kind of thing. I'm going to spread the cards out. I'm getting a glimpse of like the 4th card in, 10 of diamonds. So I'm going to pick a 10, and then I'm going to pick a diamond card. And just like I did before, I said, well, I want to pick the one right next to it, two of diamonds, okay? Now, they don't know what all of this means. They don't know where we're going with this. Okay, they just know that I'm picking selections out of a deck that they shuffled. Everything's been mixed up, and it's all transparent. It's all out in the open. Same thing again. I'm going to pick up the cards. I'm going to run 3 to the bottom. I could do a couple of optical runs, and then I'm going to have them select again, right? So we did crisscross force. They thought of crisscross force. They picked. We did. I selected the Cyril's force, okay? Then over here, what we're going to do for this is the true cut deeper force, but we're going to justify it by saying, look, you pick this one. Let's make this really complicated. I already have my force on the top. I'm going to say, why don't you cut a small packet and turn it over, set it on top of the deck? Why don't you cut about half, turn that over? Now, I'm not interested in the jack that you cut. I'm not interested in the ace that you cut. We're actually interested in the thing that you cut together, the composite, right? What came out of what you did and what you did, and that's the first face-down card that we run into. So we'll take that one. So you could not have had control over this. You couldn't have had control over this. Together, you both gave us information. We got to that. Much more difficult. Now, for the last one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do sort of this Halo Aces move, which we've talked about on the free agency stop force before, where you're stopping on you're having the spectator stop you on an overhand shuffle, and then either forcing the bottom of this packet or the bottom of this pack. We're going to force both. So what this does is it allows me in the moment to say, as I go to pick my cards, I'm going to look at the bottom card and the top card to do this cleanly. In this case, it's going to be the Jack of Diamonds, 4 of Spades. I can either pick the 4 of Diamonds or I can pick the Jack of Spades. Either one will work. Okay, so whatever is available. I'm going to say, you know what, this time, actually, I'm going to reverse this. So in secret, and this justifies me not spreading the cards in front of them so they can't see these. Right? In the last two, I openly picked some cards. This time, we're going to switch places. I'm going to pick the other card, right? So let me see here. I'm going to see where this is how I think this is going to come out. Now, what I need you to do is you're going to do the other part. All I need you to do is tell me when to stop. They say stop, and then immediately you drop down the packets, and you've got Jack of Diamonds, 4 of Spades. You put those out there, and then you pile up everything over here. So now we're all set. I find that sometimes these things can get jumbled up. It's a little too much to think about placing them in the right order. This is easily dealt with by going back to the beginning. Pick up the unknown card and get a glimpse of it so you know what order you're doing things in. Separate the cards if you need to, and then explain what has happened. We set up the premise here by you thinking of cards from a shuffled deck. I mean, the deck, you shuffled it. You shuffled this at the beginning. Nothing was prepared. None of us are working together. All of you were in on the action. There's no way we could all be in on this together. If any one of us was in on it together, the other ones wouldn't be able to understand how their part came out freely, right? So this is completely fair. You thought of the 3 of Spades. You also thought of the 2 of Hearts. But really what we were doing is you were picking a value in a suit. You picked the 3, and you picked the suit, the Hearts. And then immediately after that, from a deck that you shuffled, someone shuffled, you picked the 3 of Hearts. You can kind of see how the rest of this is going to go now, right? This all pure presentation and dialogue, monologue, whatever, okay? You go on, you say, now the next one, we kind of sped this up a bit. I just randomly picked a couple cards. Again, deck that you shuffled. I picked out the Queen of Diamonds and then the Ace of Spades, which should give us, by the same formula that you set up, the Queen of Spades. And then you cut to the Queen of Spades. Again, from a deck you shuffled. The next one, I picked out these 2 cards here. I picked out the 10 of Spades and the 2 of Diamonds. And then 2 of you cut together, and you kind of came up with this composite, right? You cut one part, you cut another part, and then in between the 2 choices that you made, we ended up with the 10 of Diamonds. The last one seems even more impossible because we switched roles, if you remember. Again, you shuffled this all at the beginning. Nothing's been set up. Nothing's been prepared. I picked the secret card right here, right? I picked this one. And then you, from a deck I was shuffling, you told me, overhand shuffle, you decided where we stopped, right? And you decided to stop at the Jack of Diamonds, and you decided to stop at the 4 of Spades, which exactly, perfectly matched my prediction, which is the Jack of Spades. And that's the whole presentation. So this is a routine. This is a routine built on very accessible forces from a shuffled deck in use. Very deceptive forces, particularly given that they all have justification inside of the routine, right? You also have in there conflation going on. We're conflating a concept because right at the beginning, we begin this with thought of cards, cards that are thought of freely. That's how this whole thing starts. And then on top of that, we have what apparently are free and open selections, right down to the very last one where they're making a choice on a shuffled deck when to stop. It looks a lot like a timing force, right? Like somehow I made you stop where I wanted you to stop. But that could not possibly have been because you had free agency in that. So really kind of, I think, powerful uses of these really easy, accessible, common magician kinds of controls. Table shift, right? Where we're not trying to hide anything. No one knows where this is going. this table shift doesn't have to be anything remarkable. It's not like we're going along and you have to make it look like you take the whole spread together, right? You can really be quite sloppy with this because nobody knows what's going on. You go on, you push off, you pick up, and then you put the two halves together, and that's what you do. Okay, so you can take your time with it. There's nothing really that anybody's expecting. They don't know what these two cards mean. It's not like they're going to call out something that they see when you do this. You just push off, push the card that we're forcing to the top of this spread, pick it up. You could even pick it up and do a couple of optical runs, right? You could do a top stock retention run, just jog a card, make a total mess of everything. Not really, you don't want to do that. And then pick up, and then you can shuffle again back to your break to get to the card that you need. So you have a lot of options in terms of control. I think it is a lot better, though, just to take your time on this. Push off, push down where you want to cut, and immediately turn it over. Nobody cares that you're picking the cards up sloppily, right? Again, they're cutting into here, and they have a free choice. Don't overthink it, okay? So you have that situation, and then they immediately crisscross force into it. Time misdirection, you pick this one, you pick this one, and then you also pick this one, which nobody knows. Built in, right? Next one, recapping again, you're going to spread the cards out. We're looking at the fourth, or anywhere you want to get to. I use the fourth because it gives me plenty of cover. They're just not going to, if people are wise and taking note of things, right, the obvious stuff, this is not going to be obvious to them. They can't know where my target is at, even if they're thinking ahead. So I'm looking at king of spades, and then I quickly scan through here. I pick a king, I pick a spade. It doesn't have to be a different color. Okay, it can be the same. I turn this, close this up, quickly run off 3 cards, maybe a couple of opticals, and then I say I have them do the Searles cut. Go ahead and cut about half the deck. And turn it over and set it back on top. Like now, this is a card we know, and I'm not interested in that. I'm actually interested in the card that we can't see, this one right here. And then immediately clean up the bad work. Looks like it came from the middle. Then you go on to the next one, and I messed up my sequence over here. But we go on to the next one, which is going to be the actual cut deeper force, right? So you spread out again. My target is 4th card, 6 of diamonds. So I scan through. I grab the first 6 that I see. I see a 6 of hearts, and then I need to grab a diamond. Hey, why don't we just take the one right next to it? Okay, that's easy enough to do sometimes if it works out that way. Then we pick up, run 3. Right, and then a couple of false runs if you want to. Again, this could be anywhere you want it. If you want it to be the top card, you can. They're not necessarily going to notice that. Okay, but I'm just covering for my own sake. And then you do the cut deeper force. Say, let's try this, make it a little bit more difficult. That's my justification. Why don't you cut just a small packet, just a few cards, turn them over, and then, so you don't have control over all of this, why don't you cut about half the cards, turn them over. Now you can see that even though both of you picked 7s, which is an amazing thing in and of itself. By the way, always take credit for things that just happen. Okay? Even though both of you just cut to 2 7s, which is absolutely spectacular. I mean, let's just remember that, okay? You're welcome. Let's just note that you made a cut. You made a cut. We're not interested in the 7s themselves. We're actually interested in what you've been able to come up with together, which is this first face-down card that we run into. You cut into the middle of your selections, right? And then you go on to the last one. I like to do this. This is a little bit of a lesson on spontaneity. David from Magic Orthodoxy recently put up a video about how to create a routining. How do you make a routine? And he talked about scripting everything. I absolutely believe in that. You should practice with a complete script. Doesn't have to be written out, but it should be everything you're going to say and do in the order that you're going to say and do it, so that it can be second nature. When I was in Drum and Bugle Corps, we used to have a saying that you had to know the show well enough that if you died in the middle of the show, your dead corpse would finish it. right? You knew everything. You knew exactly what was going to happen so that it could be automatic. And that helps a lot with nerves. It helps a lot with anxiety. If you know absolutely everything about what's going to happen, not only do you do it more fluidly, it also helps because if things don't happen the way you want them to, you are able to think a little bit more clearly, right? Because you're not really worried about the rest of it that's going on. So all of that to say, it's important, I think, when you're developing your script, that you insert the things that look spontaneous. Practice spontaneity. There's no such thing as spontaneity, right? There's really no such thing as jazzing as people think of it. I've had this conversation before. The jazz musician already has a vocabulary that is set in stone. They are never actually coming up with something new. They're putting out their vocabulary that they have a mastery over already, right? They have practiced spontaneity. They've practiced the changes. It's not spontaneous to them. They've practiced the rhythmic vocabulary. It's not spontaneous to them. They've practiced the pitch collections and the scales, right, and the arpeggiations that go within those chord changes. It is not spontaneous to them. They know everything. They've already traveled every road. All they're doing is they're choosing which road they've already traveled on, right, turn by turn. Practice your spontaneity. This looks like this in this case. I pick up the cards and I say, so we'll select 2 more cards. In fact, I'm going to do this different. Why don't we try something different? I didn't just come up with that. That was always the plan. But practice that because it adds to the realism of the performance. What I'm actually doing when I say we need to pick 2 more cards is I'm looking at the 2 cards that I need them to pick. The bottom card and the top card. Now, this is a great example because we actually have a problem. I have the 10 of clubs at the top and I have the 3 of clubs at the bottom. These 2 will not work together. But the second card over here is the 7 of diamonds. If I just run 1 card off when I explain to them what I'm going to do in the stop shuffle, I can just get this down to 7 of diamonds or 3 of clubs. So I need to take note of this, though. It gives me a moment to notice it. So 7 of diamonds, 3 of clubs. I need to either pick the 7 of clubs or the 3 of diamonds. So I go through here when I say, in fact, we'll do this different. I'm going to pick one. I'm going to pick a secret card this time instead. So I'm looking for the 7 of clubs or the 3 of diamonds. And here's one. I think I actually already used the 3 of diamonds somewhere else. It might have been this one. I can't remember. I didn't see it in there. Oh, yeah, it's part of this. So that's why you want to think about both sides of it. It gives you more probability. And by the way, if you find that all outs are off the table, you just go to the first 2 cards together, right? 10 of clubs, 7 of diamonds. And I run one to the bottom before I do my shuffle. Then they become the thing. You have a lot of options because you can always run a card to a place, but you just have to figure out what combination is going to work best. The path of least resistance is the bottom card and the top card. Here I've got to get the second card and the bottom card together, which I'll do in a minute. So 7 of clubs is my card. And I say, instead what we're going to do is before I was the one, what I did here, by the way, what I'm doing is I'm running the top card and then the second card on top of that, I'm throwing both on top. So I just switch places, right? So now I've got 7 of diamonds there. You need to practice this vocabulary. That's part of jazzing. You need to practice running cards, right? I've thought of putting a product out there, running and jogging is what I would call it, running and jogging. It just deals with running cards and jog shuffling that we've been talking about from Earn Days. And the amount of magic you can do just by doing that. Running cards, single cards, and jogging can get you a whole lot of stuff. But I don't know. Maybe eventually you'll see a Penguin download called Running and Jogging. I don't know. It's a thought I had. So anyway, we got my card out there, and then I explain what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you when I'm going to shuffle, and I want you to tell me when to stop. So say stop anytime. They say stop, right? You might not say anytime. That's bad form. You say, tell me when to stop. Say stop. That's probably a little bit better because it's more direct if it says, okay, do it now, right? So that you don't have someone running you all the way down to the last card. Even if they did run you to the last card, it's okay. What if they made you run all the way to the end? It's okay. I said, well, we've got this card here and we've got this card here. That's where you stopped, right? Either way, you're going to show whatever this card is at the bottom and whatever this card is at the top. They say stop, you immediately drop both packets face up, you take these two cards out, you put everything back together and set it aside. Don't make mention of it, don't justify where they came from, don't give any extra words, just put them out there, okay? And then the revelations, as I described before. Pick it up, take note of what it is, make sure you get everything in order, reveal them, and as you do it, recap the types of decisions they made. They set up the premise. They thought of two cards and then they picked one at random, right? Out of a deck they shuffled, right? They set up the premise, said, I picked two cards and then you cut to another one. We made this a little bit more difficult. I picked a couple of cards and then two of you together cut to another one. And then we reversed it, right? I picked a secret card just at random. Again, you shuffled this at the beginning. Nothing's been set up about it. And then you decided to stop at these spots from a shuffle deck, right? You had complete choice in that. Do your revelations one by one as you get through it. So anyway, that's a whole routine of free agency and selection. Thought of cards, free selections and revelation. Really powerful. Not a single slight. There's really no slights in it. All of it is kind of open controls. All open controls. Slightless magic, open controls. Just do things in the right order. The closest thing you ever get to a sleight in this, besides running a card, and if you choose to do an optical, an optical shuffle just in random, just for a couple of runs in between to muddle up the picture, really the only slight we're doing is that table shift, right? I need to get my 8 of hearts to the top, so I come out here and then I push it off and I put the bottom part on top. That's the only sleight we're doing, and it's an open control. You don't really have to hide it. Okay, you don't have to keep it a secret. So anyway, some thoughts on that. One last thing I wanted to address here was a comment that was made on the last video, which I thought is worth just pointing out. So I've got a deck of cards here, and what we're going to do is I want to make a force just to demonstrate this idea. I don't know that I particularly like the idea itself, but it does seem like something worth mentioning. I don't think I'll ever personally do this, mostly because I don't work with the thing that we're going to be talking about. But here's your setup. Here's your situation. This is the a take on cut deeper that doesn't rely on cutting deeper. This is the Cyril's idea without the fishiness of the turnover. Okay, you have the deck. You say, go ahead and cut about half the deck. Go ahead and turn it over and set it down on top of the deck. Now, obviously, I can see this card. We're not interested in that one. We're interested in the one at the cut that we can't see. So we can narrow it down to just one choice. If you take a look here, the first card we come to that's face down is your selection, which will be, obviously, I intended for you to get the Ace of Spades, because that is one to pick. Okay. Now, the way this is done, this is super clean. It doesn't rely on the those forcing principles at all, or that kind of discrepancy of sides. The idea that was posited in the comment section was to use a double backer. The way this works is you have a force card face up on the top, and then a double backer sitting on top of this. I don't know who to credit other than the person that mentioned it. They may have gotten this from somewhere else. They may have seen this before. I've never seen this before. I'm a little worried about it for this one issue. This could happen, right? When I turn this over to the spectator, you'll note that whenever you're doing some of these things that require a bank of cards to be reversed, I talked about this from Animan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say I'm forcing down to the 2 of spades. And they say 10, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How many cards was it? Did you say 10, right? 8, 9. This is the 10th card, 2 of spades. Whenever we're doing these kinds of forces, you usually need to have a bank of margin. Not because they could count into it. They're not going to. It's always going to end up where I want them to be. But things slip around. Things move around. You always want to have several cards that cover up so that when something gets nudged, right, a little bit of friction only does this. You might see 1 or 2 cards there, but you won't see the break. The problem with using this concept is that you have no margin of error right here when you turn this over to them. You say cut the top card, you have to hope and pray they're not clumsy, or that they pick it up, or when they turn this over they set it down and it slides or something like that. That's my one issue with it. So you might more likely do it like this. You could say I'm going to dribble, just say stop right here, or do you want to go a little more, or do you want me to pick some up a little more right here? No, you had a choice. You cut to this spot. I'm not interested in this card, just to be very clear, not the one underneath. I'm interested in this card right here. So this might be a way that you deal with using a double backer, trying to get a little cleaner on that Cyril's idea without having to turn it over. It's really not that kind of force. It really doesn't have any relationship at all. It's double backer magic. It may be worth covering some double backer magic on a video. I'm not sure I'm qualified because I don't use one very much. But some people really like to carry double backers. It's one of those things that they give you in a lot of magician cardistry prints, right? They come with double backers because magicians are in mind, so that they could use those gimmicks. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. There is a use for a double backer, and that is my approach to handling it to give you a little bit more security. Do a dribble yourself. Give them choice, but keep control. Don't give them control, right? Working with young people as a teacher, if I want young people to feel like they had choice in a matter, I don't give them choice in a matter. I say, here's 3 options, pick one. That's not really choice. This is the magician in me coming out, right, as a teacher. I'm good with all 3 of these. I'm not good with the option 24 that you would come up with, which is absolutely insane. Only a 13-year-old would think of that, right? What I do is I keep control. I'm giving you the sensation and feeling of choice, and there is an element of choice, but I'm the one keeping control over this, right? So always keep that in mind. If you want to play this really conservative, especially as a common magician that is a little concerned about risk, and even as a professional, professionals do material they know will work when they have paid high-profile gigs, right? They want control. Keep control. This is one way to keep control in that kind of a situation. So anyway, good luck with all of that. Happy magicking.